Hey everybody, welcome back to Rigged Racing. On this series on our channel, we are going to be making a HO scale, 1/64th scale slot car lap counting system, computerized lap counting system. I'm going to be showing you all the stuff that you need to buy, what's the easiest way to drill the holes, how to solder everything up, which way to wire it. There is a quick guide that you can use that the software you're going to be using for it is free, so you don't have to worry about any major costs for using that. Other than that, it's going to be quick and painless. We're going to do a short video for a 2-lane setup, how to get it just a 2-lane setup. If you're going to be running a 4-lane, you can just double it at that point. And then later on, like I said, we're going to be making another add-on videos for pit stops and Bluetooth module for computer connection to the system that's going to run all this. So hopefully everybody is in for the ride. Let's get started. Buddy, first things first, you're going to need some software to make all this stuff work. And what I'm going to direct you to is actually this right here is racecoordinator.net. This software is the software that you're going to be using all the time to run all of your races. This software is freeware. He develops it on his own time, and here in the middle, if you notice, he dedicates this all to his son Noah. So if you leave him some sort of donation, he's going to wind up donating it to a nonprofit in the name of his son. So I highly suggest, if you're going to be using this software, especially for any commercial purposes, to give him a bump and help his deployment out. So what you're going to do next is click on the download link up here at the top, and then you're going to click on the Race Coordinator 1.15.2. That's the latest version. You're going to download that, and then you're going to go to the directory where you download it, and you're going to install it. Just go ahead and install it. You do not need to run the software at this time. You just need to install it because we need access to a folder within that installation path. So just remember where you installed it. And then after you get that done, we're going to go to the next piece of software you're definitely going to need, and that is the Arduino IDE. There we go. And this, if you just go to Arduino, arduino.cc/en/software, that takes you to the downloads folder that you're going to need. And right here shows Arduino as of this recording. It is IDE 2.3.3. Now you don't have to worry about it over here to the right. It tells you what kind of Windows versions that you're running, and Linux or Mac OS depending on what you're running. I'm running on Windows 10 later, so I clicked on this, and you download this as well. And when you go back to the download directory and you install the Arduino IDE. Now this is the application that's going to allow us to upload the sketch to your Arduino card to make everything work. So go ahead and install these two pieces of software and then come back to me when you're done. Okay, now that you got both pieces of software installed, we are ready to get going. First things first, you're going to go to the directory of paths of where you installed Race Coordinator. My path is basically program files, Race Coordinator, then Race Coordinator 1.15.2 is the version that I downloaded, so that's what this folder is named. You go into there, you go into the data folder, and here you will see a folder called Arduino. This also happens to be the folder where you're going to be doing any custom images and pages and things of that nature. This is the directory path of where you're going to come to look for that stuff if you decide to get that fancy. But just for now, to do a 2-lane track or whatever, we're going to go right to the Arduino folder. Bluetooth, that's going to be another series. I'll show you that later date. Lap counter is where we want to go. So open up the lap counter folder, go to the lap counter. This is the INO file. This is the sketch that gets loaded onto your Arduino card that you bought. So all we have to do, since we already have the Arduino IDE installed, that software, you just double click this and it'll open up into the Arduino IDE. And this is the IDE. This is the code. Well, looks like there's an update. If you happen to have an update in yours, go ahead and download it and update it. Well, let me speed mine along real quick, and then I'll be right back to you. Okay, my IDE got updated. Let me go ahead and double click on the sketch that's in the folder. It opens up the IDE, and this is the code that runs on the Arduino card. Now in here, you do not, at this point, if you're just going to run a 2-lane track and nothing fancy, you do not need to change a thing in here. On the later series, I'll show you what we need to update to make your NeoPixel LEDs work and things of that nature. So right now, all you have to do is just leave it as default. Okay, so then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to plug in your Arduino card. Okay, and once it's plugged in, up at the top it says select board. Choose your drop down, and this is my Arduino Mega 2560 that I plugged in. It's running on communications port COM port 4. You need to make a note of that number. You're going to need that at a later date. So go ahead and just make a note that you're running a 2560 on communications port 4, unless you're going to be using this card and this setup on another computer somewhere else. Then the communication port is going to change when you plug it in, and you'll have to go find out what that is and set up race coordinator to work on that card. So we will show you when we get to that point about choosing the port within race coordinator. At the moment, all we got to do is just select that card, and it's ready to rock and roll, right? So it's indexing down here, and all you have to do at this point is click the upload right there. So that tells you, and it's compiling the sketch, it's throwing out the information about what it's doing, and it looks like it's already done uploading. It's just that simple. So the card is now ready to use with race coordinator. Okay, I want to show you how we're going to set this up to test with race coordinator. Now that you have your card, it's been uploaded with the sketch. I grabbed a piece of shortbread and I took the photo transistors, and I have the positive on one side and the negative on the negative rail. Right? Negative, negative, negative. And each one has a positive over here on this side of that blue line, right? You see how they're split? Well, that allows this particular positive is only positive on this line. So that goes to this wire. This wire jumps across to your Arduino card onto pin 4. So you notice they're all like that, pin 4, 5, 6, and 7. By default, in that sketch that you uploaded on this card, those are the pins to use for lanes 1, 2, 3, and 4. So right now this card is functional, and then this is the ground wire that all of them are tied to. They're all tied to the same ground, and if you notice right here on the card, it's plugged into the ground slot on the Arduino card. So this is giving you the basic steps of how to wire up your track sensors. You don't have to use 4, you can only use 2 if you're only doing a 2-lane track. But this is what you would do for a 4-lane track. You could start it off with just lanes, pins 4 and 5 for a 2-lane track if you wanted, and then add 6 and 7 at a later date if you wanted to do that. But I just wanted to show you how it works. So now that we got this set up, you're going to come here and you're going to put your hands across it, and over on your software you're going to see that the LED lights flash and everything is working as it should. Okay, now that you got the sketch uploaded to your card, and your card has been wired to the shortbread for testing, or you don't have to have a shortbread, you can just use some jumper wires just to do some tests to see how things are going to work. You don't have to get fancy like I did. I just happen to have this stuff from years of testing stuff. So what we're going to do next is we're going to set up the race coordinator. So I happen to have it here. You're just going to click on it and open it up. Now that everything is hooked up and ready to test, first thing you're going to do, we're going to run you through the software. The software here is very advanced. There's a lot that can be done with it. What I'm going to do is give you the basics, and then you can determine the rest on your own. All these drivers, everything in here is by default. I did not put any of this here. This is the way that it comes out of the box, and you can just start renaming people at your will. But let me tell you how to get started. First thing you're going to do is you're going to come up here to Track Setup. You're going to click on that, go to Expert Track Setup. Here, You're going to type your name, the new name of your racetrack. Whoop, if I could spell. Underground Raceway. And the number of track sections. This is actually the number of pieces of track that it takes to go all the way around your track. Now, it's not per lane. It's if you happen to be 2 lanes, how many pieces of track did it take to go all the way around your layout? And then you'll put that number here. If it took 77 pieces, you're going to put 77 in this spot. It really doesn't matter. It's just to help you with scale and speeds and things of that nature. Here's an image. You can take an image of your layout, and as you can see, this is the default size. So you would have to make an image exactly like this, or it just kind of looks stretched out if you use any other image. I'm going to be making an HO scale track, so my scale track is going to be 1/64. You can do any others that you want. And here, the track interface, these are all the types that actually will connect with the software. You can use the TrackMate, like I said, you could buy that if you want, but here we go, we're going to make it for a lot less. You can use the old parallel port. That was like the first one that I ever made. I'll give you a little synopsis of my first one I ever did. And then down here is what we're going to use. Click Arduino, right? And then you put the check mark in there. And then up at the top, we're going to click on the tab. Now, if you don't have anything in here, I think by default it comes with these 4 colors, but if not, all you're going to do is double click on lane color. You're going to add the colors of your lanes for your layout one at a time. And then the font color, obviously I'm using red on the one lane and black here, white here, black there. You can choose any colors you want to make things stand out. And then you're just going to click add lane. And once you have it all done, you're going to come over here and click update. And that adds it to your Underground Raceway name. And you're going to go back to General, and you're going to click on the Configure button for the Arduino down at the bottom left. And as you notice, here we have the name for this Arduino card. I would highly recommend leaving this as lap counter, because if you add another card at a later date for another series that I'm going to show you about, you're going to be renaming them for something else. Now, remember the communication port that we were talking about earlier during the IDE of Arduino when we loaded the sketch? This pops up with a communications port here. And this is the communications port for my Arduino. When I click on it, the connection button down here turned green. That tells me that I have a good connection to the Arduino card and the sketch, which is what you want. Okay, now on this main page, some of these settings need to be changed. Like right here, lap sensor used for pit usage. For my layout that we are going to be doing with separate pit lanes, we are going to be using the lap pin as a lap only. So all the lap pins are going to do is count your laps, and that's what you wanted to do. Here is the type of Arduino card that you are running. Now you can change this, but we are running the Mega 2650, and you want to make sure that you have this selected for that card because it makes a difference. So once that's selected and everything is good, I just want you to go ahead and click accept, and then come up here and click update. Anytime you make a change, I want you to click this update button so it updates your your track layout settings. Then go back into configure. Now everything's connections there, everything is saved as it should be. Now up at the top, we're going to click on analog setup. We are not using any of the analog pins on your Arduino card, so you want to make sure all of these are set to unused. If they're not, you click the drop down, you hit U on your keyboard and click on unused, and that's all there is to it. And then you can click on accept, update, click on configure. Anytime I make a change, I usually go back through the setup and just save my settings because the program can be finicky. Now here we're clicking on the digital setup. If you notice, there's a lot more pins on this one. This is your Arduino card for the 2560. There's all these pins that you can make something happen with. Well, all we're going to worry about right now is pins 4 through pin, 11. Well, right now for a 2-lane track, you'd really only have to be worried about pin 4 and pin 5, right? Remember back over here on the shortbread where I was showing you on the card how they are wired to the pins on the card? These pin numbers here are what coincides on the Arduino card. So your lap counter for lap 1, for lane 1, lane 1 is on pin 4. Lap for lane 2 is on pin 5. Lane 3, pin 6, lane 4 is pin 7, and so on. Now pin 8 starts the relays. I haven't gotten into the relays yet, but relays will cut power individual lanes for false starts and things of that nature. I will explain that when we get to that point. But you don't really have to change anything else here. By default, it should just work. If I wave my hands over the sensors that are on my bench, you'll see the lanes 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see these show green. Right? As I wave my hand across it, they show green. That tells me that everything is wired correctly, and Race Coordinator can read the sketch on the card, and you really could just wire it up and use it at this point. There's nothing else you need to do. So I'm going to click accept, and then I'm going to click update, right? And then I'm just going to close this window. Okay, here we are. The next thing you want to worry about is the driver setup. So up at the top, you're going to click on driver setup. You're going to go through driver guided setup. I recommend you doing the guided setup on anything that you're going to be working on until you get the hang of how the software works and why it's set up the way that it is. So let's just add a new person. I'm going to add a driver's name, and it's just going to be Joe. And we're going to click next. We're going to go with the default audio configuration. And here you can click and change like I did. Data, images, avatars. Here's all the avatars. Now you can go create your own custom ones, but they have to be created in an 82 by 91 pixel size, and then you put them in this particular folder, and you can just come and grab them and they will show up as whatever. I'm going to choose this dude right here and click open. So there he is, and that's all we're going to do. We'll click next. Driver setup is complete. You click save, and here, okay, let's talk about the races. In the main window of Race Coordinator, here you'll see the race type. Now you can do a single race, and if you keep reading on a little bit, you can do events, where it's pretty detailed on how you can do events. The software will run the whole race by itself if you let it. So I just like to do the single race. I just race in a basement with my buddies, so this is how I set it up. Now there's different types of races and events that you can choose. So here, right in the moment, we have a fuel round robin race chosen. And yes, we can have pit stops with this software, and I will show you how to do that at a later date. So at the moment, all we're going to do is we're going to click on round robin. Now round robin is a race, I'm sure everybody who is even considering creating this knows what it is. You're driving the same car on all the colors of lanes that are on the track. So we have 4 lanes. You're going to be driving your car in all 4 lanes, 3 minutes per lane, or whatever you choose on the race, and that is a whole race. So you run 3 minutes on lane 1, then 3 minutes on lane 2, then 3, then 4, and then the race is over. That's what a round robin is. So you can edit these if you wish by going to race setup, and I highly recommend at the moment that you go to the expert guided setup and click on the more button so you learn everything there is to know about how these races are set up. But for the moment, we're going to click on expert race setup. So this is the round robin, the one that we're editing. That's not the fuel, it's just round robin. So here you can set how many minutes per lap, okay, or a minimum lap time. So how many seconds does it take to go around your layout before it'll not count. So we have it set at 3. And then the rest of this is by default, and we'll click on your heat. And we are doing a round robin race, and all that looks good by default. And you can go to scoring. Now here you can do some rankings. We're going to go by your lap, the fastest lap. Tiebreaker, you're going to go by your average laps, the lap times, and that's the person. Or you could do the fastest lap is your tiebreaker, or the medium lap is the tiebreaker. Total lap time is your tiebreaker. So however you want to do it, that's the way you're going to do it. I usually just have it at average. And then the ranking method I leave by default. I'm not going to mess with it here. I'm going to choose a hot start, which means that you have to start behind the line, and the line is active when the clock ticks go. So you want to make sure that the hot start, so it false starts. We are not going to restart the race on a false start. We're going to penalize the person who false started. So make sure that your check behind the sensors is starting from there as well. Then here it is. You're going to say false start lap penalty. You could dock that person a lap, but what we're going to do is false start time penalty of, depending on how big your track is, of 3 seconds. Now, the relays that were in the pins before, if you set up the relays and let's just say lane 3 goes before the light turns green on a start of a race, that lane false starts. The relay kicks in, cuts the power on the hot track, and when the light turns green, everybody goes but that lane, and then 3 seconds goes, it kicks the lane power back on, and that car can continue on. So that's how all that will actually function. And then the finish method, we have a time limit or a lap limit. That's completely up to you. Here's the time you can set. 3 minutes. This is done by seconds, so you can set it up however you want, or if you just want a total number of laps to the winner, that's it. Drift time, I would highly recommend you read up a little about it. So if you made any changes, the times of how long the race is, or any of that stuff within here, you're always going to make a change and then click update, so it updates the current race. You know what I mean? So basically you're saving your settings. So moving on over here to the left panel, the menus, you're going to click on points. Yes, you can run a point series throughout the season if you want to. I highly recommend you, once again, you go in, you read up all about it. There's a season point series. Yes, you guys can get together every Friday or Saturday nights and run races, and it'll count your heats or count your races for you over a season. This is where you're going to set up your fuel, but we're not running any fuel races right now, so you don't have to worry about it. Crash and learn is basically crash and burn in the old school. Once you fall off the track, you're done for the heat. You can make all those changes here. This is more UI stuff, how you want the race start data XML file, so you can make changes to the way the layout of all that stuff was. You can make that changes if you're savvy with editing XML documents. I just leave everything by default. Groups, I don't really worry about groups. I leave everything by default. Images, I really don't mess with images too much. I leave all that by default. And audio, I have messed with this a little bit, but for you guys, just leave everything by default. It's a really good audio package. And then just click update, make sure you update your race, and then close it. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So then you come over here, you click your round robin, and then over here, let's just say you want to drag Abby out, and we're going to put Austin in, and that's all there is to it, and you would click start race. And the race kicks off with a 10-second warm-up, letting everybody know, hey, you got 10 minutes to show up to the track. Or you can just hit the space bar, and it takes you down to the 3-minute mark, and this is basically the start of the race, right? So everybody's in their position, and then you hit the space bar again.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Countdown begins, light turns green, everybody's go, go, go. We're going to cross the line with the hands on my bench over here. You notice the laps now count 0, so we just started. Let me go again. Everybody has counted. One more time. Why not? Okay, so as you see, it counts everybody as my hand runs across the sensor, so the software is working as it should. So that's really all there is to trying to get this set up. It doesn't have to be a 4-lane track. It can be a 2-lane track, right? So let me cancel this, click yes. We're going to drag Austin out. We're going to drag Meyer out, and then we're just going to click start race. So notice these two are empty, but it will cycle the pants and PO between all 4 lanes and make them run all 4 lanes because we have a 4-lane track. If you have a 2-lane track, it's only going to show the 2 colors that you have selected and make each person run in each lane, then the race is over. Just like that. Pretty simple. So we click close, we're going to abort that race, and that's really all there is to editing the race. But I still, like I said, recommend going to your race setup and go to your expert guided setup and read everything under the More button. That'll give you all the definitions and everything about what's happening when you set up every part. Just click next. You don't know the race name, we'll just call this for the second 1, 2, 3, and click next, and let you know. You may see it takes you through setting up the race, but by default, like I said, they're already in the list. So you don't have to worry about the main races. They're already here. There's a practice. There's a field race. So you're probably going to worry about practice and the round robin. And then you guys should be all set. Okay, everybody. And that brings us completely around full circle to where we started. And with that, we're going to call that the end of video 1. That's going to be the uploading of the sketch to your Arduino card. Hooking the card up to your computer. Showing the shortbread with the sensors in it, doing some testing, showing how to set up the software to make sure you know how to wire everything a little bit. But now in video 2, we're going to actually get down to business. We're going to build the actual system. We're going to mount the card in a box. We'll drill the holes, install the sensors, show you how to wire everything up. I'll be creating a parts list for you. I'll have some affiliate links down below. You'll be able to click on those and go straight to Amazon and buy all the parts from there. And yeah, it is affiliate, so I will get a little bump. Kind of helps the channel out, keep this going, since this is the biggest video series that we're going to be putting out on this channel. Anyway, hopefully you guys are along for the ride. Come back for video 2, and we will start building this track.